I am Harley Davidson.
Get your motor running. Head out on the dirt track. Dirt track. Wow, guess what we have to talk about today? The world's biggest manufacturer for cruisers, arguably, Harley Davidson, has come out with a dual-purpose behemoth of a motorcycle. Let's see what it's all about. Wow, a complete departure from cruisers, from the world's most cruiser brand ever, Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson has built an adventure bike of all things. And in this video, I'm gonna tell you if it's gonna pass or fail by the 6's Overdrive standard. Welcome to 6's Overdrive, everybody. Today, of course, we are looking at Harley Davidson's new Pan America and Pan America Special. Now, a lot of you guys down below in the comments have been a little hard on me because I haven't been overly friendly to Harley Davidson, and not just Harley Davidson actually, cruisers. That's been my biggest beef, is putting out a bike that costs a lot of money and then downgrading all the components just because that style of bike is in style. But that's not to say that I haven't lusted after a Harley Davidson like just about anybody else as long as they've ever lived. But they've been having a lot of trouble lately because it just seemed like they were going along on their brand's sake. And to further that, they always seem to be just a step behind in their technology and performance. Now, I'm the first to admit, about 2 years ago, I was at a bike show and they had one of these in the glass container or whatever, because nobody was supposed to sit on it and everything. And I saw this thing and it looked like a tank. And I seriously laughed out loud. Me and my buddies were getting a hoot out of this. Harley Davidson's gonna go into the adventure category? Haha, I think not. It literally looked like a 2,000-pound version of Harley Davidson Loyalty Black and Orange ripping down the dirt roads. And yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to say I owe Harley Davidson an apology, at least by the numbers. So for a company completely foreign to this market, they hit a home run, at least by the specs here. Now, before we even get started, I'd like to remind everybody to always leave comments. I'll always get back to you on everything. Whether you disagree with me or agree with me, that's fine. Put your comments down below and everybody can have a great forum where they can talk about this, and maybe even the manufacturers will look at this and take some of your ideas about what you think should have been added to the Harley Pan America or options that you don't like in it. And on top of that, make sure you share, like, comment, and subscribe, because if you subscribe and hit that bell button, you'll be able to get notified about future videos that I put out. Now, this bike's general competition has been in this segment for years. All of these bikes have plenty of experience. We're talking about the BMW 1250 GS, we're talking about the KTM adventure bike, we're talking about Triumph Tiger 1200 XT is in this category, and then of course you've got the Ducati Multistrada also in this category. These bikes have been in this category as long as I can remember, and they're having an all-out war for supremacy. How is Harley Davidson gonna sneak in on this category? By the numbers, of course, we haven't driven the bike. We'll have to reserve that for later. First of all, there's two models, the Pan America and the Pan America Special. One being more suited with all the options and everything, and then the Pan America, not Special Edition, is going to be the starter model that people can get into. You know, where they always have one with the aluminum wheels and not the spokes and so on and so forth. That's the standard two models that they have. Only two, and then you can dress them up a little bit. So for the most part, they're just sharing the basic architecture of the bike. The engine, the frame, you know, brakes, that kind of thing. So they're gonna be both the same on a basic level. Now, the first thing they both share is the engine. So let's get into the engine, because this is gonna shock a lot of people that are used to Harley Davidson literature. It's called the Revolution Max. It's 1250 cc of high revving, 9450 I think the red line is, and it creates 150 horsepower. Wow, I don't think I've seen a Harley Davidson rev up to half this RPM. This thing is really up there. What? 94 foot-pounds of torque at 6750 RPM? Again, The old Harley's barely got to 6750, and this one just starts producing its impressive torque at that RPM. So the best part about this is right at the top of the numbers for everything else in this field. So Harley has come out with a brand new engine, and they've matched everybody right off the hop. This is a highly competitive field with a lot of strong bikes, and Harley is just getting into it. This is their first shot at it. First shot. One of the cool things that Harley has going for it actually is the fact that they love V-twins, and V-twins work really good for adventure bikes. It puts the cylinders front and back to make the bike skinnier instead of side to side like a lot of twins are, or like the BMW where the pistons fire out the other sides. That leads for a wide bike. Now, it also makes for a low mass centralization, which makes the bike better handling in the dirt and off-road. And the fact that the V-twins or twins in general usually have a real nice torquey feel to them. Variable valve timing. I thought that was a Honda thing, not a Harley thing. Yeah, it's got variable valve timing, which means that you can get your revs out at that 9750. You're going to keep climbing and get the high horsepower for the road. And then the timing for the valves and the camshaft and everything are going to change so that you have low-end torque as well. So that's a perfect combination for a dual-purpose bike. Now, another great thing about this bike is that it's going to have a 21.2 liter tank, and they claim with the gas mileage that you're going to get up where 250 miles, maybe 400 kilometers. That's optimistic, but I think we're realistically looking 350 kilometers, which is pretty good. Pretty good for the stock tank and not making it too heavy up top. Because when you get the real big gas tanks, it really affects your off-road capabilities, and the heavier the bike, these things get really hard to handle off-road. I had a Tiger 800 XC. What this thing could do off-road, I pushed it a little bit too much. So we're going to get through this interview. My ribs are in a little bit of rough shape right now. And that bike was hard to handle off-road. These things are putting on, you know, probably 60, 70 pounds. I have the bark buster. I'm just going to show you what I just did. Just snapped that clutch lever off. One of the coolest things is the gas tank actually has the filler way up at the front of the tank. And the reason they've done this is because a lot of adventure riders like to have a tank bag. And they can put that tank bag on, and then when they get to the gas station, they don't have to remove the tank bag because it's not sitting on top of the filler. So they're thinking about the people that are going to ride this bike. It really shows some thought and consideration. I don't know if I've said this or not, but the frame is an integral structure member, or the engine, sorry, is part of the frame. And it connects at 3 points on the mid, the lower, and the bottom. And then the engine is available out front like this with skid plates, but there's no frame that goes around the engine. But there's 3 different parts that can be removed with bolts on this frame in case you damage anything by hitting something hard or wiping out or something. There's 3 different parts, so they can change out those parts instead of replacing the whole frame and junking the frame. Don't get me wrong, most of you guys out there are the same as me. The bike sees very little dirt. It travels on the highway really good, and then you take the odd fire road. But when these things get moving into heavy off-road, they're heavy bikes. So, but it's there. For the guys that do it, it's there. And speaking about weight, the weight is actually pretty good. The regular Pan America starts out at just a tick, like 502 pounds. So just a tick over 500 pounds. And then I think it's 509 or something like that, or 515. I can't remember exactly. But you get a little bit more components and electronics on the special, you know, skid plates and stuff. So that's adding to the weight of that. So count yourself in at about 515, 520. Pretty good weight. In this class, that's a good thing because you're talking about 1200 cc motors and you're talking about heavy duty bikes with heavy duty frames. 500 pounds is pretty nice. You've got an off-road kind of setup for the wheels as well on this bike, where you've got a 19-inch wheel on the front of the bike and you've got a 17-inch wheel on the back. Those standard equipment are cast aluminum. On the special model, you can get the spoked wheel. Now, I know what some of you guys are thinking. The guys that really think they're off-road heroes, they probably would have liked a 21-inch wheel. But for these types of bikes that are both on-road and off-road, a 21-inch front wheel is not overly great for the highway. It makes the front end twitchy. That's the only time you'd want that 21 inches in sand and mud and stuff like that. But these are expensive bikes to drop. Like, they're gonna drop a lot of parts and components that are gonna cost you, you know, $500, $1,000 every time it happens. So now here's one thing it seems like everybody's talking about nowadays, that they're saying that they've got specially designed tires just for this bike. Now, if that's anything like what manufacturers have done with their tires in the past, it means they're putting less rubber on the front and back and you get less mileage, so you just have to replace the stupid things in a little bit of time. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but my new Tracer 9 GT or whatever is coming out with the same stuff. From what I've learned is I junk the tires on the stock bikes right away when I get them. There's a major difference, but I could be proved wrong. It wouldn't be the first time. I get proved wrong all the time. The suspension system on the basic model is going to be Showa forks and everything. Everything that I can see about these forks is standard model equipment on all these adventure bikes. Then some of the bikes, like the WP, when you get into R versions of KTM, or you get into, say, the Ducati, with its special stuff, they'll put in a high-end shock, but then the prices start to shoot way through the roof. In the basic spec models, this bike is going to be just fine. It's got the same spec components as everything else in the category. When you get to the special, you get all the electric adjustable suspension that will gauge whether you're riding in harsh terrain or if you're on the highway, if you need comfort, if you have a passenger on the back. That one's all set up for that. So they've done a real good job matching the suspension with the bike. Again, we'll have to see when they test review it. Now, with that special version, you've got an industry unique feature, and that is that the bike will lower up to 2 inches lower when you come to a stop. Now, Harley, one of the things I've really liked about cruisers that I don't tell everybody, because I don't like telling people regularly that I like cruisers. I figure it ruins my credibility. Anyway, comment down below if that makes you mad. I know a lot of you guys like cruisers, and I'm just joking. But anyway, they'll lower the height. And one thing for me, because I've only got a 30-inch inseam, I'm short as heck. I'm 5'7", 5'8", maybe on a good day if they really stretch me out in the morning. But this bike lowers that 2 inches and people can flat foot, and that's one of the best parts about cruisers. And Harley Davidson guys love that they get to a light and they can put both feet down and it's confident, you can paddle, you can move around. I think that is a genius idea. I'm not sure how it's going to be implemented. I'm not sure if it's 100% reliable. We won't know that until we see the bike, but that is a good idea, and it's something nobody else has. So Harley ticks a box ahead of the big guys. Now, let's get to some of these other components. And the braking, of course, we've got double 320 mil Brembos. Are you serious? Are we looking at the right bike here? Are we looking at a Honda or a Harley Davidson? Double disc brakes, guys. They did it. They put it on a bike. And that's perfect because these bikes carry lots of luggage. They carry passengers. People actually ride them quite spirited. They have a high lean angle when you're going into corners, and they put the proper brakes on. They put the proper brakes on. I'm excited. I shouldn't be this excited, but I really like it when somebody keeps up with the pack or gets ahead of them, and it looks like Harley has done that. It does not look like a cheap offset brand that's made especially for Harley either. These are legitimate Brembos on the front of this bike for the Harley Pan America. I'm impressed. I'm getting really impressed about the specs on this bike. And not only do they have dual Brembos on the Harley Pan America, but you actually have lean sensitive ABS. And then you've got all the traction control as well with the bike. Different modes, there's like 5 different modes or something like that, and you can custom shape them and do whatever you want. So the electronics package is always pretty good, and the traction control is pretty good. From everything that I can see, we're not trying it out yet, obviously, but from everything I can see, the electronics package is pretty decent. And when you're dealing with 150 horsepower, traction control modes are a pretty good thing. They even have a combined braking system that you can use in the bike where you press the front brake and it actually activates the rear as well. I ate something at dinner and it's not sitting too well. You'll have to bear with me. Now, another one of the cool little electronic aids that they have that I'm not sure too many people have, if anybody, is electronic hill assist. So the brakes actually stay on when you're on a hill and you've stalled your bike or something like that. From what I understand on it anyway, I don't see all the specs on it, but you've got a hill assist like they have in Jeeps and stuff where it holds the brakes on until you engage the clutch and let the clutch out and drive ahead. So it'll let you, without it rolling back and then hitting it and popping the clutch and the front wheel goes up, the back end goes skidding, and then happens on these bikes sometimes. It really happens. That's a good feature. Another great electronic component is cruise control. It's getting standard on just about everything this year. I'm so happy about that. It should be standard on all motorbikes. The display on this bike, from the pictures that I can see and the videos of it, it's tiltable. It's 6.8 inches and it looks really gorgeous. It's got a lot of information. You even got your turn-by-turn through a Harley Davidson app. I think this is pretty nice too. I can't see them losing out on any of the other bikes. It's actually it's a touch display. So you can actually touch and do things with it, but only when the bike is stopped. Once it's moving, it's no longer touch display. You have to control it from the handlebars. So we're getting near the end of this review, and so far I can see that this bike goes toe to toe with everything in its class on paper, which is really exciting. Way to go, Harley Davidson. I'm really proud. First time out, and it looks like you got a lot of things right. We'll have to see what the actual bike handles, because you can't tell everything by the specs. To be truthful about it, this bike was premiered at bike shows 2 years ago, and they've been tweaking it since then and keeping up with the competition. I was really afraid when you see a concept bike that's 2 years old and it comes out, a lot of times they've still got the old stuff from 2 years ago, but they're not. They're at or above, and that's pretty cool when you're beating somebody out of the gate. Okay, here comes the best part, proof in the pudding time. We're gonna get into the price of the bike, and from what I can see, I can only see the US prices and the UK prices, but this should come in at $20,000 Canadian, somewhere in the $17,000 American. Now, that's for the basic model. The other one's gonna be up-spec'd, of course, but I'll put up the other manufacturers in here and spec out some of the things, and you'll see the prices are right, like it's in the middle. When you look at cruisers and Harley Davidsons versus the Hondas and the Yamahas and everything else, is that the Harley Davidson is way up here for price and the other cruisers are way down here. It's not apples to apples. Harley's always been a high-priced boutique manufacturer. Not with this bike, not with their new philosophy coming out of the gates into the adventure category. Brilliant, brilliant, good job, Harley. To me, that just seems like you're rooting for the customer to buy your bike and be enthused about your bike, and you're spreading out into the world and getting everybody, not just Harley fans. You're building this bike for everybody, and I applaud you for that. The only thing I can really think of that might be a negative are the looks, because if you look at comments, this isn't me, guys. I just look at comments on motorcycle videos and stuff like that, and it's very divisive whether people like this or not. And like I said before, when I first saw it, it looked like a tank. It looked like it weighed 2,000 pounds. Now that I know that it doesn't, and I see it in some different light, and I see the riding footage and all that kind of stuff, I'm intrigued. I'm actually happy that Harley decided to keep their own, look and everything. And, the front lights, a lot of people complaining about the front lights, but they actually are lean sensitive, and they actually light up the corner in different ways, and they're designed for off-road use. I don't mind it, actually. I'm happy that somebody decided to break the mold a little bit, because these adventure bikes are kind of looking all the same. It's hard to tell what they are when you're waving at the guy down the highway. This Harley will stand out from the pack. And it does have a kind of, when you look at it from the side, just the basic architecture, not the fairings and everything, the bike kind of looks like an old scrambler. So yes, in summation, we still need to ride the bike. We still need to find out things about its reliability, how these new options work, if they get in the way or if they're recalled, all that stuff, because it's the first thing. But on first impressions, I am impressed. This might shock some of you guys who think I hate Harley Davidson, which I don't. I think it's going to produce some new market firsts, and I think some of the competition will be looking to the Harley Davidson Pan America as a new offering and something they have to chase. which for a first effort is absolutely phenomenal. I'm so excited for Harley Davidson. I hope this is a direction that the whole company is going to go with. I hope this spreads to all their other lines and they end up in competitive prices with competitive products. Well guys, this is Six's Overdrive. I'd sure be happy if you rang that bell and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out and it helps you out get to know a little bit about what's coming out for new motorcycles. Also, it'll notify you when I put out a new video. Also, I'd like you guys to comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts on this bike is, and I'll try to get back to every single one of you that writes in. Unless you're just being a jerk, then I'm probably not going to get back to you that quickly, or at all. Anyway, guys, this is Six's Overdrive. Remember to share, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'm out of here. Bye-bye.